You said that I'm insensitive.
And I genuinely started questioning everything.
I was trying to play in my own lane of what I thought giving love was.
And I could see the fear in your face, not knowing how to fix the problem immediately.
Just don't go anywhere. Like, we might need some tissues.
Thank you, Ryan, for sticking by me. Welcome to He Said, She Said. I'm Louise.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is a long overdue conversation.
Why do I feel scared today?
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Are you someone that mirrors other people? Because if someone
Yes.
puts their hand or arms on the table like this, I'll do that. If someone goes like this, I'll do that. And I
That's
just copy them
interesting.
around the whole conversation.
I do.
So I'm now going like this.
I reflect. Maybe it's you then. Maybe you're the problem.
Well, I am nervous.
Okay, so I'm reflecting what you're giving me.
Okay.
Let's just take a beat here. Shall I kick us off with a she said moment from, not this week, by the way. This is not super recent. This is going back in time. You said that I'm insensitive. And it's always stuck with me because I'm actually so polar opposite to being insensitive. I'm so overly sensitive in most situations, but it's only in recent times where I've started to really vocalize and show you the true emotions that I have that you've maybe, hopefully, changed that opinion. But I will never forget when you said it to me because it really cut deep. Now, going back to my childhood and coming from a military family where I've got my dad, my two older brothers who were, I wasn't an only child, but there were certainly periods of my upbringing where I felt like it was just me and my mum. And I think as a result of that, I very much think I'm very similar to my mum. And she is the most, obviously, she's so sensitive, so emotional in any situation. So when you told me really directly multiple times that I was insensitive, I was like, holy shit, this person doesn't even know me. But I didn't know how to fix it. I think now I hope at least that I've gone some way to fix that and change that opinion.
Gosh, that is so interesting because your mum is one of the most sensitive people I know. She's incredibly selfless. She always puts other people first. And throughout actually my recovery, she's always been really, supportive and, she's really been like a shoulder to cry on. So I love her. I adore her. And I always think, gosh, it's you surrounded by your four big burly men.
Well, exactly. No, but this is again.
But I would never have likened you to her at all. And it was funny because when she used to say, "Oh, Ryan's my sensitive son, my sensitive child,"
which my brothers used to rip me for, by the way.
But I never saw that. But I don't know whether that was because we were dating, so you didn't want me to see that side because you'd been taking the piss out of being sensitive when you were younger by your brothers. You thought that you needed to put up a shield, and then you went really the other way. It went so far that I actually remember, and I was speaking about this weirdly yesterday, we were going through a bit of a rough patch. Our relationship had been pretty clean, pretty easy. Nothing had really happened. And there was a bit of a dip after we left the show. So maybe a year after we got engaged. And we went on this trip. And I remember watching this show called Dirty John on the way there. And I genuinely started questioning everything, everything I'd ever known about any man, about any relationship I'd been in.
I never saw this show, but this show, I reckon, has affected a lot of relationships out there. Because I remember you watching this on the plane and you were scowling at me across the aisleway as if I was this Dirty John character. Do you remember?
The thing is, right, is
Absolutely
it's so
obscene.
weird because the emotion in me hit so deep. So while we can laugh about this now, and I think it's taken, 6 years to be able to talk about it, or 4 years to talk about it.
Air that laundry, let's go.
It completely ruined our trip. I felt as though I was kind of trying to test you for the whole trip. I'd ask you questions. I'd try to read your responses. I'd try to almost poke you to see if you'd get upset, to draw that emotion out of you. I remember, and this is funny, I remember at one point there was a cockroach or something in one of the bathrooms and I mentioned it and I was scared and you went over and just grabbed it in a napkin and crunched up the bug to take care of the situation. And in my head, it just reinforced that you were someone that was completely emotionless. But I was even yawning, sat across the table from you to see if you would catch my yawn. Because people that are really sensitive or emotionally connected or that basically aren't sociopaths or narcissists, that they catch yawns. So, I don't want to make this whole conversation about this, but some stuff that really hurt me in my 20s, the breakdowns of some relationships, I never really spoke about them and I never really spoke about how I was feeling. And I think that led to a huge mistrust in a lot of people. And so this show that I watched that really demonstrated the ideas of narcissism and sociopaths and psychopaths, it just really brought it like into the forefront of my life, and you happened to be there. And then I think with your personality shying away from it, it was sort of the perfect storm, because you didn't give me the comfort.
Now I understand.
And so there I was, and I was like, why is he not yawning? Like the dogs yawn, everyone yawns.
So you were just testing me that whole holiday?
I was testing you the entire holiday.
So basically, you came into that trip with your own kind of like baggage, let's call it, with things from previous relationships, which when you enter into a new relationship, there is an element of that in the room, isn't there? You've got like previous experiences and things that stick with you. That's maybe another conversation for another time. But yeah, like you say, the kind of the deadly combination of that along with what I was giving you, just it led to like a real car crash of a holiday, which is a shame because it's a beautiful part of the world. But just listening to this story or your like account of it, I'm like sat here hurting all over again. And I feel like I'm emotional about it, because I'm like, that's just kind of shows you how sensitive I really am, because I'm like, shit, I really didn't do a good job. And I was like, I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as a horrible person at that time, but like, I wasn't really giving much. The reason I wanted to get into this kind of like she said moment of you're insensitive is because I've only now in the last 2 years really drastically changed how I communicate in my relationships. It's been a journey. It's not been a linear thing. Like you kind of, it's like updating the hard drive in your brain, isn't it? You go into experiences. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it goes pretty badly. And you kind of learn from each occasion. And it's taken me so long within our 8-year relationship, essentially, to realize if I allow myself to openly communicate with like authenticity and honesty with you, it really changes the whole dynamics of the relationship. And it's something that I wish I'd done much sooner, because it would have saved holidays like the one we took to Bali, and not just trips, just moments in the relationship. But it all comes down to the communication and the energy that you bring to the partnership.
What was the turning point?
The turning point was when I nearly lost you. And I was like, if she comes out of this, I got to change something really drastic to make this relationship work. Because at the moment, she's sort of in this hospital, and I didn't really have full confidence that you even knew who I was. And I was doing so much like frantic work in the hospital, which again goes to my like love language thing of I'm a kind of an acts of service guy. So I was like, if I just take care of stuff around Louise, whether it's like going down to Boots and getting like face wipes and toothbrushes and mouthwashes and having conversations with the doctor and making sure you get like the best fresh food and things like that. If I do all of that kind of stuff without you even seeing it, I feel like I'm giving you some kind of love. But you, because of your love language being so different, all you needed from me, cut that bullshit. You just wanted me to be there for you, give you a hug, touch you and tell you that I loved you. And this, again, like I've got goosebumps just talking about it now, because it's a mistake that I've made. I was trying to play in my own lane of what I thought giving love was. If partners can listen to this episode and really think about like the concept of love language, which I know there's a super famous book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. I know it's very popular. To some people, it's probably rescued or saved relationships. To some people, it's a bit woo-woo. But I think the basis and the foundation of it is it helps you understand like what your partner needs in the relationship. And now I understand that you're a woman that really loves words of affirmation, and you really love touch and tactile, right? Yeah. Have I got that right?
You have,
words of affirmation for sure, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't know if I'm articulating this well, but within this story somewhere, you know, I'm trying to say that years back, I couldn't communicate. I couldn't really do what you needed me to do. We've been through this experience together and I've pulled the handbrakes and tried to repurpose my energy to really cater to what you actually need in the relationship. And it's made a whole world of difference, I think. Would you agree? I fucking hope so.
It's so nice just to hear you like talk to understand what's going on in your head.
It makes me look like I'm a very complex person. I'm just not. I just think I've done myself like a massive disservice by keeping it all caged up for so long. I'm actually very simple in many ways. It's just I've almost like made it hard for people to really understand me. Do you know what I mean? And you're one of them, clearly.
100%.
But you can see the tears in my eyes. It's frustrating because I'm like, this doesn't need to be this way. And there'll be other blokes out there who are in the same predicament.
So there are a couple of things I want to talk about. I really want to understand why you feel as though you have had to keep everything inside for so long.
It's a confidence thing. Goes back to episode 1.
Yeah.
It's all confidence.
Okay.
If you lack confidence in yourself, you lack it in every aspect and every avenue in every moment of your life, whether it's work, relationships, sports, whatever.
So do you think you're one of those people that puts like I was going to say a shell suit, you know, when people put on that metaphorical like suit and just block everything out?
That's what training was for me for a long time. I thought I was putting on armored plates.
Did you actually visualize that as you were doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. I just kind of like stuck in that stubborn mindset for years and years, which again added to this opinion that I was insensitive or lacked emotion or was rude or arrogant or whatever. Yeah, did me a disservice, sadly.
And okay, so now you're talking more and opening up more. Does that also mean that you're feeling more confident at the moment?
Yeah, because I now know that you and other people see the real me.
And so you feel more valued?
Yeah. You've also played a massive part in this. You're now so respectful. You'll give time and space in the conversation. You won't make it feel difficult. You make it feel easy. So as soon as your partner starts to go about it in that way, and ultimately, I think that's what this conversation is really about. Like, I really am on the verge of tears because this is such a real thing for us.
Were people often pointing their finger at you a lot when you were younger? Did you take a lot of blame, or were people telling you off a lot? Because, and again, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. So if you don't want to talk about this now, I respect that. But even with like the stuff that we were talking about just now, I think like with the Bali stuff, I feel as though you found it quite offensive, and then perhaps you get a bit defensive.
It comes across as defensive, which that's actually, I need to address that, because it's actually frustration with myself. It's like layers of frustration that I've effectively put in front of myself. So it's like, when you give me feedback, I almost straight away get frustrated, and it might come across as like impatient or angry or dismissive, which is all terrible, but that's the reality of it. But it's actually just layers of like sticky treacle stuff that I've put in front of myself. I've made it harder for myself. I've put myself back here, and now I've got the task, which is going to take a lot of energy and emotion to make you realize that none of this is right. This is just my fault of making you feel that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's frustration. It's not like I'm defensive, like, oh, you're wrong. It's like, oh, I've done it again. She's fucking misread the situation because of my actions.
This really is like therapy.
Yeah, it is.
Do you know what's amazing?
What have I done?
Do you know what's amazing is you've not wanted to do therapy over the last couple of years, and it's obviously got to be a choice that comes from you. And I have so many people messaging me every day saying, I really want to help Ryan. I'd love for Ryan to do therapy. I think that there's so many things that he could benefit from it. And obviously you've like had a couple of like opportunities to do it over the last few years, but nothing's really like worked out. And here we are, like we're actually doing it together. It's just so nice to hear it from you, like the reasons behind it.
Can I ask you this as well?
Yeah.
I started with the she said moment of I'm insensitive.
Yeah.
And we've obviously gone like back quite a few years, and I've given you context to like why I was like that then, and hopefully where we're at now. Do you still think I'm insensitive?
No. But I think you've put on a really good act for the last 8 years. Well, which is quite amazing, really.
No, it's not amazing.
I'm not like celebrating it.
No, it's not an act to celebrate. I wasn't even trying to do it deliberately. I was literally boxed like this. I didn't know which way to move because I just lacked the confidence and lacked the communication skills. It's not like I didn't have the social skills or the communication. I just didn't have the confidence to deliver it. Fucking hell, this is therapy. I don't know if it's like an attractive quality or... It's
such an attractive quality.
Well, if it is, I hand on heart, I'm not saying it because I want to come across as an attractive, like I have an attractive quality.
While a lot of men might think that it might be an unattractive quality to be sensitive, I think it's extremely, extremely attractive.
Right.
And so endearing. And I just feel so much more closeness.
Interesting. And like society has almost taught us that men don't cry. I actually bought a book the other day that says boys don't cry. It was recommended to me because that's how we've been brought up as men and as boys. Like, boys don't cry.
I've only ever seen my dad cry once, and I've only ever seen you cry once.
I've seen my dad cry once at a funeral of his dad, and it ruined me.
I cried, I think it was actually this time last week, because I was really overwhelmed. I had something big that I needed to get done that day, and it was I just was feeling under so much pressure. And I could see the fear in your face, not knowing how to fix the problem immediately.
But I'm glad you said fear, because that's exactly how it is, fear. And do you remember the example you're now talking about? Do you remember I just held on to you for about 20 minutes? Do you remember I just held on to you? I didn't really say anything. I just held you and you just sobbed.
Yeah.
I haven't actually really done that before. Like, and what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm trying to play to what you need versus what I think is the answer. So old Ryan would have seen you cry, freaked out, and then gone straight into what activity can I do that I think is going to start to mend the issue and like take away from the pain, take away some of her pain and stress. Ultimately, none of that even gets recognized because you're just
No, it does though.
Well, no, it's just I wasn't giving you what you needed. When I saw you break down the other day, but which by the way was like you were nervous about a big public talking engagement, which we can get into. You were so upset, and I just held you for 20 minutes, and you like genuinely thanked me after you were done. It was like, cool, I'm done. Thank you so much for holding on to me. I was like, that's all it took.
That is all it takes.
And I was like, how am I 34 years old and only working this out now? Because this is ridiculous. So another, like, hopefully, I just hope that these little anecdotes will help some other blokes out there.
That is actually all it takes. Like, if you literally just like hold me and hug me for a few minutes, instantly my nervous system goes, I'm safe. Someone cares. I'm looked after. I have a partner who loves me, and, you know, I just need to get through the day and get to the end of the day, and I'll go back to being okay again. It makes a huge difference. And, you know, and it is such a blocker in relationships when the two parties have such different love languages, if we call it that, with yours being acts of service, which really speaks to like the person that you are. So you like to get things done and you don't expect a lot of recognition and you just do things.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm talking about like what I like to get from you. When you bring me a coffee in the morning, I'm like, my day is done.
It works both ways. So your love languages are the ones that you want to also receive from the person that you're with.
But it's so interesting, the love language thing. I really think that it's not woo-woo. I really think that if you understand it in your relationship, it's going to save you a lot of time and like unnecessary pain.
Yeah, it's important to know how different people demonstrate affection.
Right.
Because otherwise you're missing all of these things that someone's trying really hard to get right.
People have emailed in, and I think this one might be sent by a lady, but on behalf of her partner. And I think this might be quite relevant to this topic of conversation. Should I read it to you?
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan and Louise. I followed your journey for a while and I'm really excited for your podcast. Congratulations. Thank you. There's no names attached to this, so I can't address you, but thank you. My question relates to mental health for men. I have 4 young children and my partner is predominantly a stay-at-home dad. Wow. He works on an ad hoc basis. He's wonderful, but he really struggles with mental health. I've been going to therapy to learn some skills on how to be the most supportive partner with him. That's epic. When he's gone into very dark places. This has helped, but I generally feel quite lost in his journey. So my question is twofold. One, Ryan, what do you think helped most to uplift/show support to Louise when she was struggling the hardest? Well, okay, so I think my honest answer to this is when Louise was struggling her hardest, I was in a super hyper frantic state myself, because at the time I thought I'll just take care of everything. And when I say everything, I was like, I'll take care of the house, the food shops, the cars. I'll take care of the baby. I'll take care of all the appointments that were required for Louise's health. I'll take care of communications with your management. I'll try and like keep things moving there in some capacity. I'll try and keep myself moving in some capacity with work. So I was trying to take care of that. All these things, enrolling in nurseries and all that kind of stuff. I just thought at the time when you were in your lowest spot, I just thought if I just put my energy into that and just almost fix it in my mind or handle it, I thought that would be helpful. And maybe parts of it were helpful, but I think actually what that and this is a downfall from my side. What I should have done really is asked you, come to you, sat next to you for however long it took, and just let you know that I'm really there, because you probably felt, and maybe you can talk to me about this as well, but maybe you felt like I wasn't there enough, and maybe you thought, is he even aware of how much I'm struggling? Why is he not helping me more? When, you know, in my head and mind, or I thought I was doing the right thing, but the result was that Louise took a very, very long time to get better, and I carried too much weight that I could carry for one person, and it kind of buried myself.
I think you tried to control the controllables. So you tried to fix the things that you could.
Right.
which is potentially quite a masculine trait. And you are a fixer. And I think, yeah, as you've just said, perhaps there could have been like a little bit more kind of an emotional connection, or we could have spent more time together, us two.
Yeah.
Instead of you sort of like running around like a madman. Everybody is really different. I really struggled to advocate for myself. I really struggled to book appointments. I knew that I needed therapy, but there were so many barriers to getting through that door. And so I really needed someone to actually research, find the best person and put me in the best place. And I feel as though that was probably the one thing that no one really did. And especially in those early days when I was really struggling, I wanted someone to actually hold my hand. And whether they were holding my hand sat on the sofa, or they were physically holding my hand and dragging me out of the house on a walk, or dragging me to an appointment, or, you know, putting me in somewhere where I was going to get treated. That's what I wanted, was the constant hand holding, like knowing that I had that kind of physical support.
I think I might have something to add to this.
Yeah.
So it says, Ryan, what do you think helped the most to show support to Louise when she was struggling the hardest? I think how I addressed that question to start with was maybe like an admission of maybe getting things slightly wrong, and I could have arguably done more to support you directly versus the stuff around. But I think, like, as I'm looking at the question now, I think my answer would maybe be, just don't go anywhere. Like, it might take a long time for your partner to pull through. It might take a long time for your partner to pull through, but as long as you stick it out with them, and
Why are you crying? You're making me upset.
well, because it's I'm talking from my own experience, aren't I? I think ultimately, as a partner, all you got to do is just ride it out with them and just know that the seasons are going to change. And I think if you just maintain that belief and just don't fucking go anywhere, just stick it out, because the easy option is to leave, isn't it? The easy option is to say, I can't handle it. I don't know what to do. I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm sure sadly, that is the reality for lots of couples who don't survive these things. And I don't say that to paint myself in gold, but my advice to this question is, there are times when we all are going to hit low points, and that's when you need your family to show up. Forget everything else. You need to show loyalty and love in the biggest, most beautiful way. And I hope this isn't sounding like I'm bragging about myself. My point is just stay. Don't go anywhere. You're there. You're going to ride it out. The seasons are going to change, and things will get better. And at some point in your recovery or your collective recovery, there'll be a moment where you'll recognize it and you'll be able to let them know, thank you for sticking by me. There's a second part to this. We might need some tissues.
Thank you, Ryan, for sticking by me.
Cue the thank you. Okay, ready for the second one? For men and their mental health, what do you think is actually the best option for them in the UK? Therapy isn't really an option for my husband due to beliefs, culture, so any ideas would be very helpful. Okay, again, I can only speak from my own experience, but so therapy works really well for someone like you.
Yep.
For me, I've done 5 sessions over the phone during a 10-day period when I was away from Louise.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Sorry, I hate to interject.
No, please.
When you're talking about something so serious, what were the benefits, or why did you decide to do therapy over the phone?
Because I was in such a lost, dark place, very isolated by myself in Barcelona, and I needed help. I kind of I could hear you in my head, because there had been so many times leading up to it where you said to me, you need to speak to someone. You've got the hallmarks of PTSD yourself, and all these flashbacks that I was dealing with, all the nights that I would watch you sleeping because I was just terrified that you were going to bleed out again, all these horrible things. So I think at some point I just surrendered to it, and I thought, okay, well, let me see what this therapy can do for me. So I spoke to some random lady who was lovely and expressed everything. And it wasn't that it wasn't useful. I did find it somewhat useful. It helped me kind of vent and categorize and organize things.
Do you think it's maybe more accessible for some men to kind of be able to pick up the phone? It feels more flexible and also quite nice in a way that you don't have to sit kind of face to face with somebody.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah. Because I have actually had one session when I was in a room with someone, and that was a lot more intense.
Okay.
It was with a man. The telephone was with a woman. The in-person was with a man. And I got more from the telephone with the woman than the in-person with the man. But so it's not that I'm saying therapy doesn't work for me. I think therapy is wonderful. If it fits your routine and lifestyle, then great. For me, what works better is building my own kind of routine that services what I need. Whether that's like the early morning starts, whether that's journaling, whether it's going for a bike ride on the weekend with friends. Training has always been like a pillar for me. More so now for the sort of stress release, I guess, and
I feel like building towards something, finding things that give you some small sense of accomplishment. And that can be literally building a jigsaw puzzle, or it can be training to run the Marathon des Sables. It's giving your brain the chance to breathe, but also to get that small like dopamine hit that kind of really lights us all up. Whether it's like completing 10 pages of a book or like cooking a meal from scratch and then eating it. Starting small with those like little challenges and then building up from there. I hate to admit it, but work's actually been a huge driver for my recovery. Like being able to channel my energy into something that isn't trauma, that feels positive, and also to be surrounded by like nice, cool women in the process, some men as well, but feeling like I'm part of like a nice team.
Can I say something else as well?
Yeah.
You'll definitely feel this one as well. During the last 2 years, back to the sort of point where I said I was still working, some of that work was one-to-one coaching with clients. So, I mean, should I have been coaching in that state? Arguably not, but I just had some moral obligation to these women to give them my time and energy. And I think what we can both like really agree on is there's a lot of power and healing to be had from offering your time and help and service and support to other people, even if you're going through it yourself.
Yeah, you've got to pass the baton on.
And maybe that is like how I would answer that question. What's a good idea for men? If it's not therapy, what is it? Well, how about this for a suggestion? How about your husband or your partner opens up the conversations with his friends or with his brother or dad? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes
that's really challenging. But I agree. I think I loved what you said about finding someone to help and pull along kind of with you.
Well, no, that's it. Because in the process of helping them, you're almost mending and healing, and it's very cathartic for yourself. And without the other person really even knowing quite as much, you're both like this. You're on the way up. And that's quite an accessible way, because the reality is there's lots of people around us within touching distance who need help.
And also a lot who can't afford conventional therapy.
And I to really like put you at the forefront of this, like you, when you wrote your book and when you published it and when you launched it, arguably you weren't even out of the woods. You were still quite unwell.
Yeah.
But you've helped so many people on such a large scale. I would argue that process has really supported your own recovery. Would you say that?
Absolutely, yeah. Because it's also that thing, it's a challenge and it's an achievement. So you get that good feeling, but also knowing that you're building a community and of course, like helping people is such a big driver. And to be honest, that started way back right at the beginning. I've probably still got the message somewhere in my DMs and Instagram, but someone that reached out to me who I was at uni with, who I wasn't like super close with, she had a really bad traumatic birth experience, and she developed really bad postnatal depression afterwards. And she messaged me saying, I'm literally 2 months ahead of you. She kind of helped me pull me out of what I was going through and helped guide me. And she said, you will help the person that's a month behind you, and then there'll be someone else that, right, they will help. There is this sort of big, long chain.
That's it.
And that feels really comforting
That's it.
to know that you're not alone, but also that you're pulling other people out of the
got it.
trenches.
Yeah.
Gosh, we got quite heavy there, Ryan. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel good, yeah.
Good.
How do you feel?
No, I feel good too.
Do you feel like you know me better now?
I know you better, and it's always better out than in.
Do you feel like each week you're going to find out more about me?
Yeah.
Same for these guys.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And we'd love to hear more from you. So if you've got any he said or she said, then please do email them in using the email in our show notes.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week with a fresh new episode.
On a Wednesday. And in the meantime, you can follow us over on your preferred audio platform and subscribe on YouTube.
And before we close out, I've got to kiss the lobster.
You remembered!
Are you kissing the lobster as well?
Did we both have to kiss the lobster?
Right, that's a
I've
new...
got a swivel chair, so I don't have to go far. I think I'm flashing to as well with this
See you next week.
tartan skirt on.